Hello and welcome to this week's News Desk with me, Chris Stafford. This is Season 4, Episode 31, and today is Monday, August the 15th. Nancy, have you come down off your cloud of the Euros yet?
I mean, yeah, I kind of. It's still in some weird state of... I still think kind of it hasn't really sunk in, and then you just see reminders or certain things happening in women's football that are really exciting, and I kind of just go straight back to, two weeks ago when we won the Euros. So it was, I mean, it still just feels all a bit surreal. I think it's slowly starting to sink in a bit. But I mean, we've got the start of the Women's Super League in just under a month now anyway. So, I mean, it just sport keeps going. So it will have to sink in soon enough. Otherwise, I'm going to get left behind.
Yes, exactly. You just transition because over here, of course, we're in the middle of the NWSL season. And then we've got a couple of other tournaments we want to talk about as well happening in football. We've always got plenty of football news for you, but we're actually going to start off in the horse world, Nancy. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, I think I mentioned last week that we had the World Championships for dressage, show jumping, vaulting and para-dressage that were taking place in Herning in Denmark. That ran from the 16th through the 14th of August. So we've got lots of new world champions to celebrate, and a big shout out to England, Great Britain, I should say, as they are classified at the World Championships. They took the individual title, which we're always there or thereabouts in dressage now, so not too much of a surprise, but a new combination, and that is Charlotte Fry and Glamourdale. They took the gold medal ahead of Cathrine Laudrup-Dufour, who's the Danish girl, with Vamos Amigos, and in third place, Dinja van Liere with Hermes took the bronze. So three new combinations, although Cathrine is not a stranger to the podium, the Danish girl. But the other two are. So, the podium looked very, very different for dressage this year. So, congratulations to them and well done for Team GB, because they also took the team silver medal. And there were two women, and we've talked about this before, Nancy, what an equal sport equestrian sport is, because we had the three women out of the four on the team, and on the Danish team. And on the Team GB, there were two women, two boys, two girls. And then in German team, again, two women, two boys, two girls. And then in show jumping, and this is unusual, but the Swedish rider won the individual title. So the only women were in the team competition. There were no women in the top 10 of the individual world championships for show jumping, but in the team, Malin Baryard, who's from Sweden, I've known Malin a long time. She actually began her career with John Whittaker in Yorkshire. She's super, super talented. I've always been a big fan of hers. I remember doing a video profile for her back whenever that was, some years ago. Must have been in the, early 90s, possibly. So I've always been a big fan of Malin, and she's been on the team for a long time now, but she was the only woman on the gold medal team. Sweden won the team gold medal, and the silver medal, silver was Sanne Thijssen, so only two women, and there were, as I say, no women in the top 10. So bit of a surprise there, but it is unusual, but they made up for it in the dressage. The Netherlands, so the Sweden won, Netherlands were second, and Great Britain third in the jumping. And then, of course, there was the para-dressage, and there's lots of different grades in the para-dressage and the vaulting competition. So very much a mixed sport. That was for dressage and para-dressage and jumping and vaulting. And next month we'll go to Pratoni del Vivaro, which is near Rome in Italy, for the World Eventing Championships. And there's also the Carriage Driving Championships there, but they take place from the 14th to the 18th of August. So we're going to feature Charlotte Fry she's going to be our feature story on the website at wisports.com because she's now our new World Dressage Championship. So that's it from equestrian sport for this week, Nancy. I don't talk about equestrian sport as much as you'd expect, would you? I mean, you get to talk about because football is your sport. It's funny, I don't seem to talk about it as much as I used to when it used to be my only sport.
Yeah, I mean, I think I suppose it shows how much there's always going on. That we get to talk about so many different sports. But yeah, I guess you're right. But I suppose, I mean, it was such a big event happening that it's right that you did get the chance to talk about it.
Yes, and it was very strange not being there, I have to say. It's the first time since the 80s that I haven't covered a World Championship in person. So, yeah, it was a strange feeling. But like you say, I got to cover a lot of other things too now. And one of the sports, of course, I pay attention to is the NWSL. And I want to give a shout-out to Megan Pina because she scored 2 goals against Gotham at the weekend when they won 4-1. So that was good for her because she's pretty accurate when she gets the opportunities, isn't she?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good player.
She is, but when she takes a corner, I've seen her score from a corner. I think, did she do that at the Olympics?
She's done it. She's actually done it twice at the Olympics. I think she's the first. She became the first player to score. They're called like Olympicos, or that's the type of goal. It is. She became the first player to score 2 Olympicos at the Olympic Games, or successive Olympic Games. I can't remember when the first one was, but yeah, she is known a bit for those corner goals. It's very impressive.
Very, very impressive. I do want to mention that Angel City beat Chicago Red Stars 1-0, but because I wanted to say that I finally found out that Tiana Davidson, she's been a USWNT defender for a while. She's been on the squad for a while, and she suddenly disappeared, and there was nothing on her social media, and I wondered where she'd gone. She must have been injured. Well, it turns out she's got a season-ending injury with her knee. So we're not going to see her play again this year. Hopefully we'll see her back in time for the World Cup, But as we've said before, Nancy, the competition for placings on that US squad now are really, really tough, right? There's so much talent out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a worse nightmare getting injured and being in that national team, just because there's probably always someone that's going to come in and take your place and then be really hard to get out again. So yeah, it's very, very competitive. Yeah.
Oh, of course, we've got Kat Macario out as well, haven't we, with an ACL?
Yeah.
And let's just mention some of the England players as well, because Jordan Nobbs, of course, has been out for some time. She just has such bad luck, doesn't she, for Arsenal, and had to miss the Euros. I'm sure there'll be plenty of fans out there hoping that she's back and stays sound in time for the World Cup next year. But she has a lot of bad luck when it comes to injuries, doesn't she?
Yeah, very, very injury prone. I think she's always kind of missed out on a major international tournament because of injury, which is a real shame because she is one of England's best players, best midfielders, and it's a massive shame that she's never really got the opportunity to show off that on the international stage.
Now she's Leah Williamson's girlfriend, isn't she?
I'm not sure. I don't think that's been confirmed publicly, and also I'm not sure if that was the case. If that still is, I think they might have broken up. But yeah, they've never spoken about that officially, so I couldn't say with 100% certainty that is the case. Well,
a picture says 1,000 words, and there's been some recent pictures, so maybe they don't have to voice it. It's a bit like Tobin Heath and Christian Press. They don't actually have to voice it, Actions speak louder than words. But anyway, we'll see. But good luck to both of them, and hopefully she will get back fit soon. Do you know where she is in her recovery, Nancy? How soon Jordan will be back?
Yeah, she's playing again. So she's been playing in pre-season friendlies. So yeah, she is playing and fit now. So by the start of the season, she should be properly good to go.
Good to go. Okay. All right. Well, Arsenal's got enough good players there. You should have a very, very exciting season ahead to look forward to.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It's not long to go now, so
not long to go. All right. Well, let's, while we're talking about football, mention the string of nominees for the Ballon d'Or. A lot of really crack players there. The list could go on, couldn't it? Do you want to mention some of those names?
Yeah, I mean, it is just absolutely stacked with talent. So people like Alexia Putellas, who won last year.
Another injured player.
Yeah, well, probably this list is she tore her ACL just before the Euros. Whether that will affect, when the judges are picking, whether that will impact their decision, I don't know, because she did have a very good season domestically anyway. But yeah, she is currently out of an ACL. Got people like Ada Hegerberg, who helped Lyon win the Champions League. Sam Kerr, who was so prolific in the Women's Super League. Vivian Miedema, who's like the top scorer of the Women's Super League of all time. Lena Oberdorf, she was amazing for Germany at the Euros. And then a few of the England players as well. So Beth Mead, Lucy Bronze and Millie Bright. Alex Morgan from the US and Trinity Rodman as well. It's, absolutely. And Kat Macario as well, not to forget her. Absolutely stacked with talent. It's quite difficult, I think, to pick who could win, just because it's, there's obviously been the Euros, which kind of favours European players, but there weren't that many players that had an absolutely incredible season and a really good Euros as well. I think Beth Mead did do that, but I'm not sure she's quite there yet to be winning a Ballon d'Or. I think people are quite confident that Putellas will get it back, but you never know with these things. But yeah, a really incredible list. It's and there's so many names that could have been on the list as well, which just shows the absolute depth and talent in women's football at the moment. Yeah.
Depth and breadth, right? In so many countries, and the way these girls play, around the world. I mean, we just saw, it's just coming to me now, Rachel Daly is coming back to the UK, right, from Houston Dash.
Yeah, it's gone to Aston Villa.
Yeah. So many. And I wanted also, I was thinking of Lindsay Horan, who plays for Lyonnais, and she's also on her way over here as we speak to play in the International Champions Cup, which we just discussed is happening just down the road from me. So I could go and watch her and Olympic Lyonnais play Chelsea.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully Sam Kerr will be on the Chelsea team, isn't she?
Yeah, she's definitely gone over to the US with the squad, so I don't see any reason why not. She hasn't been playing in an international tournament this summer, so she should be fit to play. So yeah, I mean, you could be watching Sam Kerr live. Yeah,
I could. And Lindsay Horan and all the others. I mean, that squad in itself, Olympic Lyonnais, right? Just so many good players, wherever you look. And then Portland Thorns are playing CF Monterrey from Mexico. That's where we had the CONCACAF Cup recently in Mexico, in Monterrey, Mexico. Tell us about that International Champions Cup then, because it came as a surprise to me. I didn't realise that was happening till I saw all the social media chatter that these girls were coming over, and I thought, okay, I knew that the Women's Cup was happening, but that's a different tournament. We're going to talk about that as well. So why don't you kick off with the Women's International Champions Cup and tell us about that?
Yeah, so it's a pre-season friendly tournament. I know it's kind of halfway through the NWSL at the moment, but for like the European teams, it's pre-season. So quite similar to the Women's Cup, but I think just a different kind of organisation. Whoever's organised it is just a bit different. So. Yeah, like you said, 4 teams. So Lyon, probably the best team in France. Chelsea, the best team in England. Portland Thorns, one of the best teams in the US. Would you say?
Yeah, I'd have to say. We've got Christine Sinclair on that team, the Canadian. They are. I don't know where they are in the league right now. I could check that. But they are one of the top teams. I will say, my hope of going to Providence Park isn't the same Providence Park. I just looked it up. This one is the Portland Thorns venue they're talking about, not the one in Fairfax, Virginia, which is 30 minutes from here. So I'm not going to get to see them play.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Weird that they've got a stadium with the same name. That's quite confusing.
Yeah. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's all right. So Monterrey from a team from Mexico. So those four are just, I think it's a bit of a round robin competition. So there'll be a third, they all play each other, and then the best two teams will be in a final, and then a third place match as well. So yeah, just an interesting friendly tournament. I think it's always interesting to see when you've got the European teams play the American teams, but yeah, I guess everyone's kind of in a different stage of their season, like we saw with the Women's Cup. I think Tottenham lost 2-1 to one of the Mexican teams, but yeah, Tottenham are kind of in their, like 3-4 weeks out of the season starting compared to the Mexican league where they're halfway through the season. So yeah, fitness levels and kind of, mental sharpness and stuff is probably going to be a bit different, but it's always interesting to see teams from different continents play each other.
Yeah, it is. Just to go back to Portland Thorns, they are actually top of the standings right now.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, the best team in the US.
Yeah. So that's one competition that's taking place, and then the other one is the Women's Cup, and that is totally separate, and it's, I don't know if all the games are being played in Louisville, Kentucky, but Racing Louisville is part of that with OL Reign and Club America, Tokyo Verdy Bellezza, Tottenham Hotspur, and AC Milan. So that's what is that cup considered then? I mean, it's just another friendly mid-season tournament for us.
Yeah, I think again, just a friendly tournament really. You do normally get these a lot here, like as pre-season, so I don't know if it's kind of the European clubs looking to I suppose kind of expand these tournaments to the US as well, and it's just so happened because of the different schedules that it's come mid-season for the NWSL. But yeah, just I think friendlies and just playing pre-season matches or mid-season matches against teams from outside your own leagues is always good to test yourself against new opposition.
Yeah, good competition. I mean, it's a bit like the She Believes Cup. That's a pre-season for us. Yeah,
well, yeah. Yeah, just, I think, kind of like invitational tournament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. And so that, the Women's Cup, then that's obviously taking place now. Do you know when it finishes?
I think it's also finishing on Saturday. Which I think the Women's Champions Cup also finishes at the weekend. So, yeah, I think they're both finishing around the same time.
17th semi-finals. There we are. I'm just looking now. Yeah. And so right through, 20th this weekend. Okay. And that's on CBS Sports and Paramount Plus. I'm having to think twice about getting Paramount Plus, because there's a lot of football on there, Nancy. I might have to give in and...
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it. All right. Okay, so there's two major tournaments. What news have you got from the WSL from over your corner?
Well, just a lot of players, I think, coming back now for pre-season from, the ones that have been competing at the Euros or Copa America. So yeah, I think the team's just kind of forming, getting fully together, like whole squad's getting together now. Kind of just making the final tweaks and stuff like that. So yeah, it's September the 10th. That's when the league starts. So yeah, got about 3 weeks now.
Okay. And Serena Wiegman, in the meantime, has gone back home to the Netherlands. But when will she be called upon again? What's the next that you could? Is it the game against the US in October, or is there something before then?
Yeah, we've got World Cup qualifiers before.
Qualifier.
So, yeah. In that they're in September. So It's actually pretty soon. I think it's actually before the season starts, the start of September. So they're kind of back with each other pretty soon. Not much of a gap in between those.
Okay, yeah, that did ring a bell. Okay, so World Cup qualifier, and then that nice friendly competition in October. See how friendly that is when we get to it. All right, we'll have lots to talk about in October when the US meet England. We're going to move on to tennis swiftly now, because in 2 weeks' time we'll see the US Open kick off here in New York on August 29th through till September the 11th. And we did have some news, which we were kind of expecting, that Serena Williams was going to announce her retirement. She played up in Toronto and recently at another, as a qualifier, I think, for the US Open, but she's made it official at last. How do you feel about that and her impact on the sport, Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, her impact on the sport has been massive. 23-time Grand Slam winner, only behind Margaret Court, and the most in the Open era. So she is the one that's won the most, and I think as well, just not just the winning the most, but the dominance. I think the fact that there was a period where, like, every Grand Slam, women's tournament on the WTA tour, Serena Williams was winning it. You don't really see dominance like that, especially not in women's tennis. I mean, women's tennis at the moment is, I know Iga Swiatek had a really impressive unbeaten run at the start of the year, but it's still kind of quite open. People can come in, like we saw with Raducanu at the US Open last year. So yeah, she is kind of, one of the most dominant athletes, I think, of all time. Like you said, I think her retirement was definitely expected. I think it was even a bit of a surprise that she came back from Wimbledon. Because I suppose just she's been absent for quite a while. She is age-wise kind of getting towards the period where people retire, and I think after Wimbledon I was kind of expecting she'd play the US Open and then retire. So even though she hasn't quite said retiring, she kind of said evolving away or evolution away from tennis. So it is quite vague. I remember when I first read it and I wasn't 100% confident on what she was meaning, whether it was she hasn't really set a specific date or been really clear with it, so she's almost kind of given herself room to maybe continue, but it seems pretty clear that regardless she will be spending less and less time with tennis anyway, and focusing more on her family and business ventures and stuff. So I think because she hasn't been around that much, I don't think much will actually change in women's tennis, but it's just that kind of, the fact that previously she wasn't around, but she could have come back and played, and now it will be that, she's kind of gone for good. So, obviously a really impressive career. So it will be sad to see her go, for sure.
Yeah, and as you say, the sport is highly competitive right now. There's just so much talent. Again, it's great to see the women rising in the game. So August 29th, that's when they start the US Open in New York through to September the 11th. Well, we're going to just update you briefly with news of Brittney Griner, the American basketball player, of course, who has been detained in Russia now since February. Now, this isn't really news except that they're going to appeal, and she was expected to appeal, but the lawyers have announced that they will appeal her 9-year sentence. But at the same time, Nancy, the Russian officials have always said that they wouldn't even consider negotiating an exchange, a prisoner swap with the US until the whole legal process had been exhausted and the sentence began. So we're kind of between and betwixt. I think they expect the appeal process to last 3 months. Is that what you read? Yeah,
I read that as well. Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be any traction, but at least they are open to negotiation. At least the Russians have said they will negotiate. But I think their demands are slightly higher than I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much, but I think that, it's high stakes because the US wants 2 prisoners released and Russia wants 1 very high stakes prisoner released. So, yeah. And I think Germany might be involved, and that was complicating things. So we'll keep you posted on that. But it's still grim days ahead for Brittney as she awaits that appeal and for her case to be negotiated. And we'll keep you updated with that. Talking about a summer of women's sports, Nancy, not only did we see amazing crowds for the Euros and for sports competitions wherever you look this year, it's been fantastic for women's sport. And then, of course, whilst the Euros was going on, cricket was always happening, one of my favourite sports, in the background. And the 100 took place, is the competition that you went to last year, wasn't it, that you went to the 100?
It was, yeah. I went to the opening match, which was really good fun.
Yeah, and they saw fantastic crowds, didn't they? So give us an update on that. I mean, that was super exciting to see it wasn't just a one-off last year. They've even, continued that and continue to, retain the crowds and the appeal.
Yeah, and I think so. I was reading an article in The Guardian about it, and it's, I think they've kind of got quite high, even more high-profile players on board. So I think Elise Perry is definitely one of the main draws of this year's women's tournament. She's playing for Birmingham Phoenix. And then Megan Shutt and Beth Mooney play for London Spirit and Alessia Healy for the Northern Superchargers. So quite high-profile names in women's cricket. And like you said, I think last year it was pretty successful with getting the attendances there, and I think surpassing the record, the objectives or the targets that the ECB set for the tournament. It interestingly points out that, last year's tournament had an average audience of 7,500, which does make it the highest women's sport competition, domestic women's sport competition, the highest average crowds for, because the Women's Super League probably averages like 3,000 or 4,000 a match. That's quite interesting. And like you said, it's kind of continued on to this year. So some really, really good crowds so far, probably helped by the really good weather as well. But yeah, it does seem to be a success, and especially, I think, particularly for giving female cricketers the same kind of audience and profile as male cricketers get.
Yeah, for sure. Super, super popular. Really, really, really pleased that that's done so well. But I do want to mention the Australian captain, Meg Lannon. She led her team to victory in the Commonwealth Games recently, which we talked about in Birmingham. But she's announced that she's stepping back for an indefinite break from the game. And she's been a stalwart of the team now since she debuted in 2010, took over as captain in 2014. She's given no reason. She just says for personal reasons she's going to step back. So that's a big gap for them to fill. I know they've got a lot of talented players, but you can just imagine the impact, because she really has made an impact in the sport for Australia. Yeah, I mean, it's I was at the Commonwealth Games T20 final when she was playing in there and was really integral. So, yeah, I hope, whatever the reason is that she's stepped away, that, she's okay and hopefully will return to cricket soon. Yeah. Yeah, well, whatever she needs to do, good luck to her. But, made a tremendous impact on the sport, and a very popular captain, very, very popular captain. But at least she's got the gold medal from the Commonwealth Games to take home, so that's nice. All right, we're going to talk about 100-year anniversary of Women's World Games. What's that story, Nancy? Yeah, so this is just quite a nice one. So on the 20th of August, so this Sunday, there's going to be a celebration for the 100th anniversary of the first Women's World Games, which was first organised by a French woman called Alice Milliot, who's kind of known as like the pioneer of women's sport around the world, and used to push for the inclusion of women's sport at big events like the Olympics. Just from what I know about her, when she was kind of getting rejected from the IOC, she set up the Women's World Games instead.
So I think there's going to be a lot of kind of around her for the Paris Olympics and celebrating her. But there's going to be an event in Paris to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Games. So it's going to include an exhibition, a photography exhibition, the screening of a film about Alice Milliat. Just quite a nice little story to end things off.
Yeah, nice. We like those. So that's this Saturday, August 20th. Very nice. And it's great to remember these people who have made such a difference. Obviously, these are the pioneers, aren't they? And I think a lot of women are recognising those that came before them in their sport. Because it's so important. This is a process, isn't it? We are all part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. It's all, those people like her kind of laid the foundations, and then we just, keep building on it.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, it continues to be a wonderful summer of women's sports. Nancy, what are you looking forward to now, apart from the start of the season? I know football season for you, but what's ahead of that?
I think, there's a few things. I think there's quite a big boxing match happening here between Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. That's on September the 10th. So that's also on the same weekend as the start of the WSL. So quite a big weekend for women's sport. The US Open, of course, only a couple of weeks away now. So that's, kind of build up to that. And in tennis as well, it's Serena Williams versus Emma Raducanu during the first round of the Cincinnati Masters. So I think that's going to be it's going to be sometime tomorrow. I think at quite an unsociable hour over here, but I'm just quite intrigued how that plays out, because it's a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll probably be the only time they will ever play.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think anyone now who gets drawn against her, who's kind of one of the new generation, that it is, they've literally just had that chance to play her, and I think there will be a lot of younger players that won't ever play her. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll bring you news of that next week when we come back with more from around the world of women's sports from Nancy Gillen and me, Chris Stafford. And before we go, we're just going to remind you how you can follow the stories and follow us on social media. So go ahead, Nancy.
Yep, so I'm on Twitter. At Nancy_Gillen is my handle. And on Instagram, it's at Nancy Gillen _sport. And then I write for Give Me Sport Women, and we're on Twitter at Give Me Sport W.
All right. And we're at WisSports on social media and WisSports.com online, where you'll find the links and the stories that we report on here each week. And finally, Nancy, how's your training going? Are you going to aim for another marathon in the fall or in the spring? What's the schedule looking like for you?
Yeah, I haven't got anything in the pipeline at the moment, so I think I will get something in there soon. It's been pretty hot here, so I haven't been running that much, but hopefully get back out soon, and then hopefully get something in the diary, like some kind of half marathon or something like that.
Oh, exciting. All right. Well, I continue to train here. I'm looking forward to doing a bike ride in the fall, another long one, when my friend Marcy Cornegate gets off the Pacific Crest Trail, which she's hoping to finish in the next few weeks. They're now in Washington State, Nancy. So in the final state, heading north towards the Canadian border. So we'll celebrate when she reaches that border, probably in about 5 or 6 weeks' time, I would think. So, yeah, she's getting up into the Cascade Mountains now. Beautiful, beautiful mountains. So really envy her, because she's been sleeping out under the stars. And can you imagine doing that for a few months?
No, I mean, it's such an incredible thing to do. And I genuinely can't imagine it. So, yeah, congrats to her. Fair play.
We'll have to get her on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you want to know more about Marcy's PCT hike, the Pacific Crest Trail there from the Mexican border right all the way up north to the Canadian border, just jump on the Amazons podcast or WisSports. It's on the WisSports podcast on our main channel, and also at Wis Amazons, where we've been chronicling, that's the word I was looking for, chronicling her journey. So I think there's 4 episodes. There'll be more before she finishes too. But we will get her back on this show, I think, and talk about it too. But that's it for this week. Nancy, enjoy your week. Thank you very much, as always, for rounding up the news.
No problem. Thanks for letting me speak about women's sport.
All right, we'll be back next week with more from around the world of women's sport. So until then, thank you for listening and enjoy your sport.